We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land of which we record this podcast, the Whadjuk people of Nungabuja. We recognise their continued connection to the land and waters of this beautiful place and acknowledge that this land has never been ceded.
Welcome to Health and Safety Conversations. Here's your host, Tom Bourne.
And joining us today is the wonderful and the awesome Nektarios Karanikas. Nektarios, how are you?
Nektarios Karanikas is Associate Professor in the Health, Safety and Environment discipline of the School of Public Health and Social Work at QUT. He's studied human factors and safety assessment in aeronautics at Cranfield University, and he was awarded his doctorate in safety and quality management from Middlesex University. Nektarios worked for over 19 years as an officer at the Hellenic Air Force, where he served in various positions related to maintenance, safety and quality management, including accident investigations. Besides his academic qualifications, he holds professional credentials in occupational health and safety, human factors, project management, and engineering, and has been a member of various national and international associations. Nektarios has published an edited book and several chapters, co-authored various peer-reviewed journal and conference articles with a focus on safety risk management, presented his work in over 80 events, and he actively volunteers in a wide range of scientific and professional activities. He more recently has authored the book Professional Generalism in a Hyper Specialized World.
Hello, Tom. I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me once more in your beautiful podcast. I was overseas actually for a month back in Greece for the Greek summer and beaches, so back now to work full throttle. Too busy, but always happy to discuss with you. I enjoy that.
And what's the weather like today in lovely Brisbane?
It's been all right, around the 20s, 21 or so, sunny. Yesterday we had a rainfall, actually quite severe, but no damages to my knowledge. So it's been
Fantastic.
the typical warm Brisbane winter.
Yeah, I was going to say, did winter happen about 2 weeks ago or something?
It was a bit windy and a bit colder than usual, but you know how we are here in Queensland. If it drops lower than 20, we start complaining, freezing to death, we're not going to survive.
Yeah.
But it was okay.
Yep. The other day, you'll be happy to know, the other day in Perth, I was driving to work and it was 1 degree. So
wow.
We actually get real winters here.
I'm from Europe. I know what the real winter, feels like. But I'm getting spoiled, to be honest. Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Nektarios, first of all, let me say it was an absolute pleasure actually meeting you in person at the AIHS National Conference. That's something that I didn't think would happen, but I was really happy with. But what would you like to talk to us about today?
So, I have been following many professionals on LinkedIn, and over time I have sensed and I have observed a tendency to discuss about the identity of the health and safety profession. So quite a few perspectives, I would say, worries, concerns, whether we have a voice, whether we make a difference, what skill we should have, and the like, whether we should have a seat, over the table with senior management and things like that. And since I have been in this role in my previous, let's say, stage of my career, and now from the more scholarly perspective, I deal with many health and safety professionals through the AHS, the conference. I have students also that study, and they are already health and safety professionals. We have frequent chats and discussions about the health and safety profession. So this is something I would like to discuss with you today, if you don't mind.
Okay, absolutely. Can I ask a question to begin with?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right. Here's an interesting one. What makes a health and safety professional?
Yeah, what makes a health and safety professional? So it is the combination of qualifications, of skills, competencies, experience altogether. But because in the international framework we have this distinction between the safety practitioner and the safety professional, what I often tell my students and other colleagues is that the safety professional is the safety practitioner, let's say, is like a teacher. So what does a teacher do in the class when we're talking about, of course, the school environment? Is the one that, for example, knows the truth, has information about the topic, and conveys that information, implements that. So that's like a teacher. That's like the safety practitioner. You have some skills and competencies, and they implement those. If we want to name ourselves as safety professionals, this means that we do not just know, we generate knowledge. We're the ones that we lead the discipline, the health and safety discipline. So if somebody claims that is a safety pro, but the only thing that they do is to write down procedures, whatever methods, and do risk assessments and run investigations and audits, and they do not advance the profession, do not degenerate and share knowledge through their practice, to my humble opinion, there's no profession there. That's practice. That's safety practice. I hope I answered your question. It's like the university professor. It's like the university professor and the teacher. So the teacher conveys knowledge, explains, accepted truths, theories, information, but the university professor generates knowledge and new truths. This is what I expect of a safety professional.
Okay. So, practitioner working in the fields, in your opinion, shouldn't be calling themselves safety professionals?
If they don't generate new knowledge, they don't advance the health and safety discipline, then they would not qualify. But this does not mean they're not professionals from the ethics and moral, perspective. They can exercise professionalism. Okay, please do not confuse the technical term between practitioner and professional, and the fact that somebody can exhibit, it should exhibit professionalism. So I'm a professional in the way that I know my limits, I know my skills, I do not, I'm genuine, honest, transparent, I'm ethical, I'm a professional in that sense. But when it comes to the technical distinction, no, I wouldn't say that they're professional.
Yeah. Do you think there's any likelihood that we will get a sort of semi-formalized structure that's actually accepted within the industry? That's me being careful not to say the word profession, within the industry,
yes,
so that people would be, certain tiers of level of influence?
This might go against prevalent beliefs and may offend people or may push people, and people do not like it. Although there is fertile ground, as you can see, lately we have quite a few case law, court cases where health and safety professionals are charged or actually become key players in the case, meaning that the society, the law, the legal practice, the courts recognize that we have a role to play, and we should be serious about what we advise and what we implement and how we actually consult with, everyone. So there is a fertile ground, I think, but I'm not sure something like that would happen It's a long way. It's a long way. We need to put in place too many things to reach to that stage. But do we want that? That's the question, which I do not have an answer. But I'm going back to the influence part. Why do you want to do that? I don't know if you have come across the book by Sidney Dekker about the safety priesthood. That actually Sidney says that we have created a system of rules and myths and rituals similar to religious traditions, and like we just introduce rules like the commandments in religion and things like that. And we are the gatekeepers of accepted practices or whatever. So with all respect to Sydney, I think there is a huge misunderstanding. In religion, in some religions, we have, like in the Hebrew, in the Christian religion, we have 3 roles in systems. We have the role of the king, the role of the priest, and the role of the prophet. Okay. So the king, you understand, is one that rules. And within organization, this is reserved for senior management, boards, directors, so we can at least agree that those are the kings, in brackets, in quotes. Then the priest in religion is the one who mediates, who is the intermediary between the people and the king. Okay? So that's the role of line management, of supervisors, the ones that directly interact with people, have responsibility to manage resources, and then they are like the connecting link between senior level decisions and policies and strategies and the implementation of those at the front line. So what we're left with, and we have not realized, is that we have the role of the prophet. So what is a prophet in religious terms? Is the one that has the expertise that can see a bit in the future, in the future, can understand the context and say, guys, if we follow this way, you're going to end up here. But if you follow way B or C or D, you have those alternatives that you might end up there. So I don't think we should be the priests. We should not be the priests, not because it's bad to be a priest. It's not the role we should have as health and safety professionals. We are, in religious terms, once more in quotes, the prophets. This is the equivalent. The other thing we do not understand is that typically, and please correct me if I'm wrong, in organizations, health and safety staff, managers, advisors, whatever you name them, are appointed by management, correct? You're recruited by management. You're not elected by the workforce. I'm not talking about the health and safety representatives. I'm talking about the employed professional. So, since you are appointed by management and not elected by the workers, you serve the interest of the employer.
Yes.
Full stop. All those big words, we are here, the voice of the worker, and to serve the worker, sound great. But in reality, that's one of the identity crisis factors. We think we are there to save the worker, but in reality, we are paid by management to advise the employer how to discharge the health and safety duties. This, of course, means that the organization keeps the worker healthy and safe. But we are an instrument of management. We're not an instrument of workers. And I will give you proof now. What do we ask workers to do if they identify a problem? To report. Beautiful. Especially when they try to resolve something, they risk assess, they don't have the proper control measures for the resources, and we say report it. Good.
Report it.
So the health and safety advisor, staff manager. Let's say that there is a problem and the organization has the resources to lower the risk so far as reasonably practicable. But they do not do that. They don't want to give the money. They don't want to invest in that, but they can. Do you know any health and safety professional that reported the employer to the regulator? No. So that's proof that we do not represent the worker, and we have instruments and we
That would be
serve
zero.
management.
None.
That's very important to keep. It's not bad. It's not bad, but we do not acknowledge. Please go ahead. I think you want to ask something.
No. So is it a conscious masquerade, or is something that we've been just fed for 2 or 3 generations, and it's become this thing that we're there to make sure people go home, but we're actually there to protect the corporate entity's interests.
You would say, I know, perception, misperception, conception. I don't know how it has evolved through time, but it's there. And the other thing that happens is that my daughter, months back, say, "Daddy, I'm really amazed by your capacity to don different heads in your life, like the professor head, the daddy head, the partner head, and you play your role within the context and the culture." You say, very nice. I say, I'm okay with all those heads. As a health and safety professional, we do not understand that we have also many heads. We have the head of the worker, we're workers. We have the head of the expert. We might have the head of the manager, if we have a department like to manage. And we might have the head of the leader, if we believe we are leaders. Now, we confuse those roles. The fact, for example, that I want to make connection with my colleagues as a worker, as a person, Nektarios Tom, I should not use my safety expertise into building rapport with Tom. I should use my head as a colleague, as a worker. But if I want to practice safety, I need to get off the head mainly of the worker and get the head of the technical expert. And we're not any different from other roles in organizations with similar roles. We say we need approvals for everything. Well, quality management needs approval. Production manager needs approval. Navigate the same complexities. They also contribute to duties and objectives. As health and safety, it is a duty, And they also have different objectives to meet. I don't know why I see this whining of the safety profession that we're not heard. We want more power. We want more authority. And because I have interactions with other professionals and in other disciplines, they're okay. They're very content. They do the job. They navigate complexity. They acknowledge the difficulties, leadership problems, cultural problems. Yes, budget constraints, you name it. But they don't have this, how to say, perpetual complaint about the position within the organization. And maybe this goes back to what I said before about what the safety function within organization, what's the place there, and what we really do, and whom we serve and how we serve. I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Where I may have an inkling of where you think safety should sit, because we may have had a conversation about this, I don't know, about a month or so ago, where I said something and you basically educated me. And I'm proud to say I got educated, because believe it or not, I'm not always right.
Health and safety is a duty.
Just for everyone else, where should safety sit within an organization?
Should sit straight below the ones that are actually charged to exercise the duty, which is a direct line to the director to the senior, the board, whatever structure, an organization has. Okay, so that's very important to understand. We had a short discussion about that. Now, we confuse the fact that while we exercise the duty, we might have objectives. That's another story. If we want to boost the well-being of our employees, to boost, morale and productivity and everything, that would be an objective. To maintain the health and safety of people, it's a duty. So the ones with that duty or contributing, advising the PCBU, the employer, so the duty should have a direct reporting line to the ones, to the directors. The ones that are there to increase productivity, to retain people, to keep people, happy mentally, of course, and the like. So we're talking not about health, we're talking about boosting people, because enhancing things could be in any other part of the organization, like human resources, to educate people, to train people, to support people, to increase resilience. So that's another part. I think the discussion that we had came back to the fact about the importance of the health and safety within organization. And you say, what's going to happen with a small business? You remember you asked me, how about the family business? How about a medium enterprise? How are you going to, do not have the resources to recruit to do safety? Say, well, they have the resources to pay an accountant to do finances. So they need to find the resources to pay a safety consultant to do the safety advice. I don't understand the argument there. But anyway, that's a long story. Nevertheless, I get back to this question. Our profession, and by extension, other disciplines and professions around, suffers from the false separation between safety and health. We talk to people about safety. We don't talk to people about health. And health is what we say. Safety is the instrument. I'm not sure whether you agree with that, but safety is what we practice to achieve health, to maintain health. So when we go to people and we talk about your safety, maybe it creates some tensions and
I'm following.
But why don't you go to people and not talk about your instrument, how I'm going to keep you healthy, but about health. Health is very personal. And you can connect with people easier when you talk about health. If you go to the senior board, if you go to line managers and talk about safety, because of many reasons, and we don't have the time to analyze them today, they will probably somehow resist. But we talk, you're here to ensure the health of people. It's another story altogether, which is the reality. And we don't use this secret weapon to make an influence. That's another thing that in our profession, and typically safety, people do not talk about health. Talk about safety. It's like you go to your cardiologist, who is a technical expert, okay? And instead of talking about your health, the medical expert talks about cardiology. First, let me tell you, you have a health problem here. You have a health issue here. You have a risk profile, okay? And they say, when you acknowledge, yes, what can we do? Then they use cardiology to advise you what you can do. So, when we go to people, we need to highlight the health that is at risk. It's not safety at risk. Safety cannot be at risk. Safety is practice. And then when we acknowledge that we have a problem, we have a health risk here, whether it's an immediate injury or a chronic health problem, then we use safety. So, okay, now I'm going to tell you what ways we have to minimize the risk here. I hope it makes sense.
No, that's brilliant. I like that. Because I would have said, if before we had this little discussion, I would have said most safety professionals have
it's actually not a
very
huge difference.
limited
It's the
knowledge
reality,
about health
but we don't
matters.
acknowledge as a
But if it's
profession the
about
reality.
protecting
And
people's health, that's a
okay, which
different
is
matter.
important. And then I see
different
on
kettle of
LinkedIn,
fish. Yeah.
going back to the profession where we are, exceptional people. They say that my
Yes.
one of my roles, maybe my hustles, is to educate managers and workers to grow them and professionally develop. No, that's human resources in the training department. You can contribute to that. Of course, you can. But who appointed safety professionals as the organization psychologists, I would say, of the organization? That want to drive everything in a specific way they believe it's the best one, instead of focusing our time and resources where it matters most, which is health. And then if you have spare time, I'm with you, Tom, and you have a passion about something, your expertise, contribute to other initiatives. But see about the health, because this is the mission. And then do other things. And it's a distraction, I think. I know where we're heading. But we're not change makers. No, we're influencers we can be. We can influence, we can advise, we can show the way, we can provide the instruments, we can provide the tools. Changing others is a very huge claim to make. I don't want to be changed by you, Tom. I want to discuss with you. I want to hear you. Yeah.
Yes. All right. I want to follow up on this a little bit. If we are influencers, but if we are quite correctly employed by the employer, the PCBU, the organisation, whatever you want to call them, and not
the one does
by
not
the
exclude
workers,
the other.
etc.
But
should we be actually trying to influence
we have so much body of knowledge talking
workers'
about
behaviour, or should we be just trying to
management,
influence and advise
and
senior
set the
management
pace
within the
within
organisation?
organization, the priorities? We should give priority to influencing where the decisions are made. And they will start with senior management, you then go to middle management, line management, supervisors, and workers. This will naturally, if that the professional skills now, the communication,
Yes.
persuasion, integrity, all those things, that they will have cascade effects throughout the organization and will then benefit workers. Okay, and we're talking about safety, health and safety, which is the focus. If we have spare capacity to do the rest, but we're talking about mental and physical, of course, health and safety. Now, that's another point. Going to visit the workers and listen to what they have to say. It's not our core duty. That's line management duty. This is what they should do. It's not in the job description to do otherwise to do that. Consultation with the workers, it's not the duty of the health and safety pro function. However, it's good to do it. First of all, especially when we have the opportunity to do a risk assessment, we want to see, okay, what do we risk assessing, not to do, to help them perform a risk assessment. To understand the context so we can help them a bit more, or advise about controls and measures. And then also of course, sense what's going on over there. Not because we want to blame ourselves, but to want to understand and then give feedback back to the line of the chain of command, if you prefer, and have also some experience that we can share with them. You think that A is happening, but guys, this is what is happening in reality. So we can do that, but we should focus not on doing human resources. That's the fine line here. People become the confessors of the organization. I have a colleague that's very frustrated. He says each time we call each other, he's stressed because everyone calls Tom about all possible problems that you can imagine, because he has spoiled the system, and he acknowledges that, by going there to be the parent, the mommy and daddy of the organization. And half of his time he spends on line management, operations management, human resources management, whatever, and only half or less on health and safety. That is his primary role and duty. Now, if we have aspirations to influence people from inside, leave the health and safety profession and become a line manager. I was a line manager for quite some time. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yep.
Become whatever you want, a senior manager, find a job, a seat around the table, wherever you want to go. But putting so many things on our heads, on our shoulders, and then getting distracted from health, to me, is dangerous. And we give this impression that we are here for everything. We are here for everything. And this is, to at least in my experience, where I was back in the defense sector, whatever was not falling under the portfolio scope of whatever function, send it to health and safety. They will manage, something like that.
Yeah. Well, I think there is an ever-growing list of things that you need to do as a health and safety practitioner. You have to look after environment, safety, security, quality, all these wonderful things, which is awesome. And if you are expected, apparently, to be responsible for
Not directly.
stopping incidents and accidents. Let's just start with that. Is the safety by the practitioner or professional should they actually be held to account for
given false advice?
Stopping accidents and incidents occurring in the workplace?
They participate in an investigation, and for example, they are missing huge floods that, if managed, could have prevented another event. Yes,
absolutely.
If you want to be named as a profession,
yes,
and we have responsibility. As I said at the beginning, we have those cases around Australia, quite a few states and territories, where health and safety staff, managers, get charged. Say, if you are a worker, as a worker, we have the duty about the health and safety of ourselves and others. So when I give advice to you about health and safety matters, I have a duty to do the best I can with the resources I have and the knowledge I have and the like. So we're not directly responsible for that, but we contribute in a way.
Yes. Yep. Just curious, where do you think it
I haven't done
became
research on that, but based on
almost
my
the
knowledge and
accepted
experience,
fallacy
this
that
happened when
safety was
we
responsible for
started
influencing
trying
the
to
hearts and
interpret
minds of workers in
the course of
relation to their
actions
beliefs and
through
practices about safety.
organizational psychology and behavioral safety and things like that. So what happened there? That we fell into a trap. So because the perspective, the viewpoint of understanding, interpreting an accident got another flavor. So we didn't have the technical parts of safety, we had the behavioral parts of safety, we had the systemic problems, organizational issues about safety. Which is the lens, of course, which we should think. For some reason, plus the fact that quite many colleagues and scholars from the humanities and areas like sociology, psychology enter the profession. I think drove the direction to almost exclusively becoming the almost HR advisors of people. Okay, so I don't be careful. I don't say that it's not within the scope to understand human behavior and organizational systemic effects and all those, latent errors and top-down, bottom-up approaches and excellent theories and research. But this does not mean we should change the profession from being health-focused. We do risk manage harm to health is what we manage, the risk of harm to health through safety, physically, emotional, and cognitively, mentally, yes. When we need to connect with the expert, whether it's from the human resources department, a psychologist in the organization, and an engineer. If it's an engineering problem, I don't think you're an engineer. When it's about designing and implementing control measures, but I feel this is how it came to be. This shift. It's like I understand that safety was very technically approached, and we needed, of course, a supplementary now way to do that was not enough. I acknowledge that. It's part of my practice in research, but I think we have overdone it. So when I go to a conference, Tom, and out of 50 presentations, there's one for hygiene, another for ergonomics, which are very technical and important things because hygiene is about exposures, ergonomics is about interactions, and third, about energy management, like we call process safety, also with fires, and so about the three the core areas of risks. So it was one of it. And then the other 45 is about how to be good people and how to love and how to respect, which are important. I think I'm afraid in the message, because I seen students of mine there. So what is the message they get? It's about being a good communicator, an influencer, to a good leader. And then if you are asked to assess something with a chemical, you have no idea. Yeah, so what is the message we're sending as a professional? Maybe you're a seasoned professional. You can filter those things and you can, for example, adapt your practice as necessary. The new professionals, what are we promoting out there? So once more, we need to balance things as a profession, the technical part of the organizational, the human, the hygiene part, the more scientific part, and the more, humanity space of safety. And to finish this part, if we agree that we have this hierarchy of controls, okay, the elimination, substitution engineering, admin, and PP, what is all this discussion about? Admin. So we have a huge body of knowledge that says admin and PP are the weakest forms of controlling risks, and 90% of the discussion is about admin. If we follow the procedure, is admin. If we comply with the policy, is admin. Do you understand what's the paradox here? So we say the gravity should be in finding solutions that are more robust and less human performance dependent. And the discussion in the profession out there, as far as I can see, most of it, not everything, is about admin. Where are we going? I don't know.
Yep. Yep. All right. I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm expecting an interesting answer. Okay. You talked about using professionals to deal with certain specialty type things like engineering. For an engineering problem requires probably the input and advice of an engineer.
It's not a patient.
Okay. Psychosocial risks.
As with all other
should they be managed by
a safety
professional or by a psychologist
regarding
or human resources?
The effects, ways to assess and possible controls, and having this knowledge, to relay that knowledge to the organization, whoever that in the organization is, the line manager, the senior manager, the director, depends, and help the organization, support the organization in managing the risk. The health and safety professional should not manage risks. We're not there to manage risks. Now, in the course of that, yes, the health and safety professional should be searching for information about what's going on in that space to inform the organization. If there's an intervention that we cannot decide within our workplace, and Tom is the expert into that, we should call Tom. As we do with when I have silica dust and don't have the monitoring pump there to collect the sample and send it to the lab. I call Tom, the hygienist. As simple as that. But as with all hazards, whether it's physical, chemical, biological, psychosocial, it is very important indeed to keep abreast of what's happening, because one of the pro skills, the professional, the practitioner skills, is when I receive your report, Tom, or your recommendation and your proposal, to have the critical thinking and knowledge and background to understand your report, to debate with you. Not to doubt your experience, but to debate about, I know the context maybe better than you. You know, Tom, nice idea, but here things do not work like here. Okay, can we? Now, if the health and safety person is not competent in that space, then this will create problems and gaps. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think you did. Is it possible
Well,
that
this can happen to
well-meaning
all professions. It's not something we
safety
can manage. That's
practitioners
why I said when we're
who are
talking
thinking
about
they
the
must be
distinction
everything
between
to everyone
professional
could
practitioners,
actually exacerbate
professionalism is what you're talking
the
about.
damage done
Is
to
something that
individuals
should
by giving
be a trait of everyone,
well-meaning but
whether
maybe
you are an
ill-informed
entry-level,
advice.
set for entry-level person, or whatever the PhD you have and whatever experience. And it's not easy to navigate information today. The good thing is that from the university, the academic perspective, we're pushed to publish open access resources since a few years now. The government bodies, the regulators have good resources out there, webinars. The professional bodies also do a good job. I would really ask our colleagues to be careful because some people are not making money while saving a cause. They're using the cause to make money. I guess you understood me. And if we want to keep this humane, approach and to be respected, when I read on LinkedIn, we have an accident. There was a fatality, but not everyone died. And there is a health and safety professional claiming this is a safe to fail system. We should rethink where we're going. So you go to the victim's family and say, well, you lost your beloved, but 30 more people were not injured. It's a safe to fail system. I mean, we must be very, very careful. And this will actually make things even worse for the acceptance of the profession by the community and the society. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. Why? Because I realized that our profession, the trigger was our profession,
All right.
has
Changing
people
tack a little
from
bit.
so many backgrounds.
You wrote a lovely little book called
From
Professional
engineering, law,
Generalism in Hyper
management,
Specialised World.
business, psychology,
Firstly, why?
And when I hold discussions with people, they cannot easily see health and safety from another lens. They all usually filter everything through the lens of the background. Another trigger for that book was that even my students, when I teach them, I realized that they cannot easily connect things. So they have the background to understand basic concepts, which I assume they know. But after discussions I had with them, during the breaks and after the classes, I understand that an engineer, for example, is so much into formulas, equations, modeling and simulation and equations that they cannot appreciate human systems, socio-technical systems, the variability, the non-predictability. And on the other hand, that people who have a more, as I say, inexact science background, humanities, for example, cannot appreciate that an engineer cannot produce anything without a number, without specific requirements. I really have realized that people cannot understand that we say we manage. We don't manage people. You cannot manage. You manage the resources that people have to do their job. Because I realized that whatever objectives and targets we have explicitly agreed, there's so many things implicitly expected that play a role in our systems, collections, as I named in the book, that can be very surprising when things do not go to plan and we do not meet targets. We're talking about change, and we focused the discussion too much on that system, like as the system is something abstract and not tangible, and that we're not the system. And I say, we are the system. So when you're talking about a change, you're talking about changing people. Maybe we don't change influencing people, but maybe we don't want to indeed blame. Of course, we don't want to point the finger on a specific patient that we interact. But when we say don't focus on Tom, but focus on the system, you actually mean focus on other people. You understand? So you say, remove your focus from Tom and focus on other people. Why is that then fair? To leave Tom just there alone and then focus on other. Why don't the other people feel offended? So it's a book that touches in 21 chapters, starts from ethics and down to change management, and combines knowledge and experience from my career so far, about 29 years across quite a few roles and disciplines, plus, of course, knowledge that we have out there from different, books and authoritative resources. Yeah, that's how the book came about to be.
Okay. Now, generalists
I
sometimes given a bad name, like they're somewhat less than specialists. I know in Australia we've got this great saying which says, jack of all trades and master of none. Are generalists somewhat less important than specialists in the field?
Goes beyond their limits and expertise, and now it's time to refer you. And what does the GP? Refers to the specialist and receives a report from the specialist. So the GP needs to be competent to read the report by the specialist, interpret the report, and give again directions and advice. So of course we need generalists. To be honest, I feel, that's my perception, it's not the truth, that in Australia generalism is not appreciated. At least to the degree that it is in Europe, for example. So in Europe, when you have a very diverse experience and exposure and, qualifications and knowledge, I'm not talking about being recruited for a very technical expertise role, but for more managerial, supervisory, roles, those people are very much wanted, not just preferred, wanted. In Australia, I feel that if your qualification does exactly have the title of the role that you apply for, it's a no. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, of course we can.
Very good.
Another time.
By the way, I really enjoyed your analogy of GPs and specialists.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Makes a lot of sense.
It's always nice.
Good visualization. It's just fantastic.
All
right.
Have a good evening.
It's always a wonderful pleasure talking to Nektarios, but we're going to have to leave it there tonight. Thank you so much for coming on, and I look forward to speaking to you again, young man.
Thanks for listening to Health and Safety Conversations with Tom Bourne. Until next time, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your week.